All right, everybody. Happy Monday again. This is the second little video that we have to kind of make our way through so we can be finally done on Friday. Most of the material that we're going to cover for the rest of the week is on percents. And so my question for you is, when have you ever used a percent? Or when have you ever heard of a percent? It's a pretty easy question, right? If you've ever done any shopping, Black Friday shopping, you see percents everywhere, right? So shopping is a big thing. I'm a big label reader. So labels, I'm talking about food labels, those have percents written all over them. When you talk about taxes, New York state tax, any state tax, you deal with percents. So it's not anything that you really can get away from. So let's just look at to understand what a percent means, all right? So 53% means, well, it means 53 per 100. All right? So let's break down the word per cent. So per means divide. Cent, like century, centie, means 100. That's the prefix for 100. So divide by 100. So 53 per 100 means 53 out of 100. Right? 53 out of 100, or you could also write it as a decimal, 0.53. So there's lots of ways to interpret this. But the key thing, if this is a 10 by 10 square, that means there's 100 little mini squares. So if I were to shade in 53% of them, I'm going to shade in 50, 10, 20, 30, 53 out of the 100. So percent means 50 successes out of 100. Okay? All right, so there I've shaded in 53%. All right, so there's a few ways that we can think about word problems with percents, and we'll look at this first one. So a basketball player makes 81 out of 100 attempted free throws. What percent free throws are made? Well, you have 81 out of 100. So if you have 100 on the bottom, that would be the 81%. Or in a survey of 100 people, 17% drive blue cars. What percent of the people drive blue cars? So you have 17 out of 100, so that would be 17%. Now what I like to think about as a percent, it's the part, it's going to be a fraction. So a percent is a part over a whole. That's usually what I think about when I think about a percent. So you have 81 parts out of 100 total, or 17 parts out of 100 total. So to write a percent as a fraction, right, a percent as a fraction, what you want to do is you want to drop the percent symbol, and then write the number over 100. And then simplify if they ask you to. Simplify if possible. Right? We always write our fractions in simplest form. So drop the percent symbol, write the number over 100, and then simplify. All right? So this would be 40 over 100. You ready? Now watch, we're going to do it twice on the calculator. So 40 over 100 is 2/5. You also have a percent symbol. So 40%, now look, they're going to give it to you as a decimal, and if I hit change, there's your 2/5. Okay? So right now what we're going to do though is we're going to drop the percent symbol and write the number over 100. And we cannot simplify that. So drop the percent symbol, write the number over 100. Drop the percent symbol, write the number over 100. Oh, and 100 over 100 is just 1. So to write a percent as a fraction, right, you drop the percent symbol and then write the number over 100. That's not so bad, right? Just got to remember, percent means per 100. So to write a percent as a decimal, this is very, very easy, okay? So I drop the percent symbol, and then I shift the decimal two places to the left. Some people like to say they divide by 100. I'm a decimal shifter. So drop the percent symbol and shift the decimal two places to the left. Okay? So drop the percent symbol and shift the decimal two places to the left. So 1% is same as 0.01. So 87%, if we drop the percent symbol and shift the decimal two places to the left, it's 0.87. Right? It's 87 out of 100, which is 87 hundredths. Right? If you want to think about it, I mean, you can always think about it as a fraction. 43% is 43 out of 100, and look, that's 43 hundredths. We drop the percent and shift the decimal two places to the left. 23% is 23 per 100, or you drop the percent symbol and shift the decimal two places to the left. We okay? So drop the percent symbol, shift the decimal two places to the left. How we doing? So don't self-doubt, right? Drop the percent, you shift the decimal two places to the left, you'll get 1.9. Now some numbers are going to be small. If you drop the percent symbol and shift the decimal two places to the left, right, that's a very small percent. So as a decimal, it's going to be very small. And then 100%, if you shift the decimal two places to the left, it's just 1. Remember, 100% is 100 per 100, so it's just 1. All right. So those are pretty easy to do without your calculator. In fact, I think it's faster to do them without your calculator. But you always can think about putting 87% in there, right? There's your decimal. Change will give you it as a fraction. Okay, so the calculator's super, super great with this, right? You hit your percent, enter will give you a decimal, change will give it to you as a fraction. Okay? All right. So write each decimal as an equivalent percent. Okay, so to change a decimal to a percent, you shift the decimal two places to the right, and add the percent symbol. I like to think about this, shifting it 2 places to the right, same thing, or multiplied by 100. That's the same thing as shifting it 2 places to the right. I tend to think about that this way when I'm playing with my calculator, okay? So if you have a decimal and you want to make it into a percent, multiply it by 100. That's basically what you want to do. Or shift the decimal 2 places to the right and add your percent symbol. So you can think about it as multiplying by 100 or shifting the decimal 2 places to the right and adding the percent symbol. Right? I mean, if I had to change 0.6 to a percent, I'm just going to multiply by 100 and then add the percent symbol. Now you do have a change to a percent key. It's that delta percent. So if you put 0.6 and said change to a percent, remember a triangle means change to a percent, you can also do it on your calculator. But I think it's just easier to multiply by 100 and call it good. Okay? So to change these to a percent, multiply by 100 and then add the percent symbol. Multiplying by 100 is the same thing as shifting the decimal 2 places to the right and then adding in the percent symbol. All right? You can do it on your calculator as well. 0.73 change to a percent is the above the other set of parentheses. The delta means change to a percent. The triangle means change. Right? So, to me, it's just so much easier to go 0.73 times 100, and there's your, just know that that's the percent. Okay. And then multiply by 100 or shift the decimal 2 places to the right. There's your 125%. Now, somebody said, like last semester, how can you make more than 100, like how can you have more than 100% of something? And so I said, well, let's just pretend we were doing a sale, and our goal was to make $50. So if you make $50, that's 100% of your goal. But let's just pretend you made $60. Let's pretend you made $60. Now all of a sudden you made more than 100% of your goal. So you can think about getting or making over 100% of something, right? All right. And then to write each fraction as equivalent percent, we're going to do this with our calculator, okay? We're going to do this with our calculator. So, you ready? We've got 5 over 25. Now, if I hit enter, right? If I want to see that as a decimal, you can just do this and then multiply by 100. So this is 20%. Or if you like that key that says change my answer to a percent, you have to hit the second key and then that second parenthesis. That'll give you the 20%. If you don't have your calculator, what you're going to have to do is change the fraction to a decimal with long division and then multiply by 100. So change the fraction, no one wants to do this. Change the fraction to a decimal with long division and then multiply the decimal. Multiply, you can tell it's late. Let me write that again. Multiply the decimal by 100. and add in the percent. Right? That's a lot of work, right? Right? So to do this out, you would have to have said 5 divided by 25. You would have had to add some zeros, bring up the decimal. 25 goes into 50 2 times. Right? Multiply and then subtract. So you would have gotten 0.2. You have to multiply by 100, and that would have finally given you the 20%. Woo! Thankfully, we're just doing this on our calculator, okay? So we're going to put the fraction into our calculator and say change to a percent. That's a repeat. Remember the repeat symbol? Or if you did this and got a decimal, you just multiply your answer by 100 and there's your percent. Okay, if you don't have the percent keys on your calculator, that's not a big deal. All right, so this, well, we know what this is as a decimal. This isn't too bad. That's just 9/10. So we'll multiply by 100 and put in our percent symbol. So if you get a 9 out of 10 on a quiz, you got a 90%. All right, so try this with your calculator. So 6 over 15. If you want, you could just say, give me the decimal form and multiply by 100. So there's your 31.25%. Or you could say 5 over 16 and then the second set of parentheses says change to a percent, and there's your percent. So either way. All right, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to practice, okay? Practice 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then stop there, and then we're going to start kind of thinking about what percents are and what they mean, how they can be useful to us. So stop the video, practice 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then turn it back on. All right, so I'm going to do these without my calculator, and then I'm going to do it with. So to write each decimal as a percent, if you want, you could just say 7% is 7 over 100, so that's 7 hundredths. If you want, you can say, I'm going to drop the percent symbol and shift my decimal 2 places to the left. That's another way to do it. Or we can turn on our calculator and say 7% and hit enter. And there's your decimal. All right, there's a bunch of ways we can mess with these. You ready? So, couple ways you can do this. I'm just going to, here, we'll do the decimal shift. So I'm going to get rid of the percent and shift the decimal 2 places to the left. So this would be 0.246. Or you could say 24.6% and then hit enter. Okay? All right. So write each decimal as a percent. So you know you want to add in the percent. So just multiply by 100 before you do that. Or shift the decimal 2 places to the right. It says you need to write this as a percent. So put the percent symbol in and shift the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay? Or if you have the decimal, you can just multiply it by 100 and know you have to add the percent key. Or you can tell your calculator to change it to a percent using that second change to a percent key. There's so many cool options. So what I recommend that you do is find one that you love. I usually just, if I have a decimal and I want to change it to a percent, I take that decimal and multiply it by 100. That's what I do. Okay? All right. and then write each fraction or mixed number as a percent. So what I do is I change these to a decimal, and then I just multiply by 100. So if you get a 4 out of 5 on a quiz, you got an 80%. All right, so look, I'm going to put this mixed number in. I have my mixed number key. I'm going to put this into my calculator, and I'm going to change it to a decimal. And then I just multiply by 100. There you go. So this is 433.3 repeat percent. I'm doing okay. If you just practice a little bit with my math lab, I think you'll be okay. All right, you just have to practice it. So write each percent as a fraction. So look, you just take just know it's 39 per 100. 39% means per 100. So 5.7%. I like this answer, but my math lab doesn't like to have the decimal in the fraction. So I'm just going to show you that my math lab's going to want this. Oops. 57 over 1,000. But you know what? This would be a great answer for me, just because percent means per 100. But when you're playing with my math lab, pop them into your calculator just to verify that the fraction's simplified right. Right? So like this one, 39%. Just pop that into your calculator and tell it to change it. Change it till it's a form that's a decimal. See? Decimal, or change it to a fraction. All right. Let's just think about what a percent means. So if you have 100% of a number, that means you have the whole thing. So this said 100% of 160, the answer would be 160. But you see, this is just a teeny weeny bit less than 100%. So it's going to be just a teeny weeny percent of a teeny weeny bit under 160. So it's a little bit under 160. So that would be pretty close to it. 98% of 160 would be closest to that because it's a little under 160. Does everyone agree that 52% is close to 50%? And if you've ever done any shopping, 50% means that it's 50% off, so it's half. So 50% means half. So if it was exactly 50%, we'd be looking for 100. But this is a little bit more than 50%, so we want a little bit more than 100. So this guy right there. Okay, I'm going to skip this one for now, and we'll come down here. Now look, if you have 100% of 300, that's going to be 300, right? 100% of something means you have everything included. So 200% of 300 means you have 100% and then another 100%. So that's going to give you 600. 200% means you double a number. Not only do you have 300, but you have another 300. So you're trying to find a number that's pretty close to 600. Does everyone agree that it's going to be letter C? So this is the same concept. Same kind of concept. All right, now look. I know that 24 over 12 is 12 over 12 plus another 12 over 12. We agree with that? Now look, if you get 12 out of 12 on a quiz, that's 100% plus another 100%. So that's 200%. But this isn't 24, it's 23. So it's going to be a little under 200%. So if we're under 200%, that's going to get us to sit right at the 190. All right? And we're going to practice more of those, I promise. All right? Okay, the last little bit is some label reading, all right? And you have some of these are off of my math lab, so we'll practice with a couple of these. All right, let's just kind of get oriented to how a label works. So it says how many ounces are in the container. Okay, so it says a serving size is 1 ounce, and there's 10 servings in a container. So it looks like you're going to have 10 ounces of these Ruffles in the container. Now, it says 1 serving is 10 crisps. So if you eat 1 serving, look, this says amount per serving, you're eating 120 calories. Now, if you're allowed to have 2,000 calories, to find a percent, I'm going to let you know right now, I'm going to write it down here. To find a percent, when they ask you to find the percent, you want to put the part over the total or the whole. All right? So, when it says, what percent of your daily allowance of 2,000 calories did you consume? Well, you consumed 120 calories out of 2,000. Okay, 20 divided by 2,000 in my calculator, that gives me a fraction. I need a decimal. This is the decimal. To get it to be the percent, multiply it by 100. All right, so I'm going to write this out. It's 0.06 or 6%. You've got to remember, once you hit enter on your calculator, you have to multiply it by 100 to get to the percent. So if you eat 30 crisps, that's 3 of those. So 120 times 3 is 360. So then the percent, then you ate 360 calories out of 2,000. It's the part over the total. All right? So when I put this into my calculator, you can just put it in as a division problem and hit enter. That's not the percent, that's the decimal form. Then you got to remember to multiply it by 100. And there's your percent. Are we okay? All right, it says what percent of total calories are calories from fat? So look, if you eat 120 calories, that's a 30. It's hard to see. The calories from fat are 30. 30 out of 120 are calories from fat. So a percent is always the part over the total. For all these problems, the part will be the smaller number and the total is going to be the big number. So if we put this into our calculator, this is going to be the decimal. So you've got to remember to multiply it by 100 to get the percent. So multiply it by 100 to get the percent. That's what people always forget to do. All right, and another thing that's cool is this chart right here. All right, it says how many milligrams of sodium is recommended per day. Well, there's 2 ways we can calculate it, but we're just gonna figure it out from here. So you have, if your calories are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, it looks like you should have less than 2,400 milligrams of sodium a day. Just kind of figuring out how to read labels. And let's see, how many grams of total fat is recommended per day? So if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, do you see right here? Total fat, you should have about, well, you should have less than, looks like 6,500, less than, looks like 65 grams of fat per day, based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Okay? So that's just a little label reading, and we're going to look at the next problem. But this is big right here. It's the part over the total. All right. So let's look at this. Now I noticed that this didn't copyright. So this snack, this is the snack size bag of Doritos. This line should have come right here. So this is the Doritos, nachos, Doritos. So here, we'll get rid of this. All right, so for lunch, we had a can of chunky vegetable beef soup. We had a 12 fluid ounce Coca-Cola. And we had a bag of Doritos, a little snack bag. So it says, how many calories did you consume? Okay, well, let's see. In soup, do you see we had 140 calories? The Coke, if it's not diet, man, there's a ton of calories in it. So the serving size was 1 bottle, and we drank the whole bottle. That was 240 calories. And then for the Doritos, it's 150 calories. So, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like we had 530 calories for lunch. I'm going to check that because I don't trust my math. Okay, 530. Perfect. So it says if we're going to limit ourselves to a 2,500 calorie diet, then what percent did we have? So a percent is a part over the total. So we ate 530 calories out of a total of a 2,500 calorie diet. Right? So we're going to do 530 divided by 2,500. That's my decimal. But don't forget to multiply by 100 to get the percentage. So we ate just about a quarter of our calories. We ate quite a few for lunch that day. Okay? Not quite a quarter, but close. So how much sodium did we consume? So 640 milligrams. There's no, right here, sorry, 75 milligrams of sodium for the Coke and 180 milligrams in the Doritos. So 640, 75, and 180. So how much sodium did we consume? Looks like we consumed 895 milligrams of sodium. All right. That's a lot. How much sugar? All right. So sugar, sorry, I keep tilting my paper funny. Let's see. 4 grams of sugar here. Wow. 65 grams of sugar here. That's a lot. And 1 gram of sugar there. So 4 grams plus 65 grams plus 1 gram. So it looks like we consumed 70 grams of sugar. All right. So it says, oh, I don't know if you can see that. So it says, how much total fat did you consume? All right. So let's look at all the fat calories, or the fat grams. So we have 3.5 grams, no fat in the Coke, and then 8 grams. Okay, so 3.5 grams plus 8 grams. So 3.5 grams plus 8 grams. So we consumed 11.5 grams of fat. Now, what percent of the daily allowance is this? So if we look at the 2,500, you see up here? They would like us, if we're on this 2,500 diet, to eat no more than 80 grams of fat. Okay, you ready? So 11.5 grams out of the 80 grams. 11.5 divided by 80. Remember, that's the decimal, so we have to multiply it by 100. So we've consumed 14.375% of our daily allowance. We okay with that? Now these numbers, now look, if you look at these percentages, that comes to about, for fat, 17%. Why is our number not, ours is 14, but these add up to 17? Well, these numbers are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Okay? Those numbers are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So if we were on a 2,000 calorie diet, we'd only be allowed 65 grams of fat. So let's look at that. So 11.5, if that's what we consumed, and we were only allowed to have 65, there's where the 17 comes from if we add those up. Do you see that? 5 plus 12 gives you 17, because these are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, not a 2,500. All right, just so you understand why this is a little lower than those percentages, because this was 2,500. So if you had a higher caloric intake, you're allowed to have a little bit more fat. So this wasn't coming close to our fat consumption. How much saturated fat did you eat? Well, saturated fat looks like 1 gram. And then how much over here? Oh, and another 1.5 grams. Okay, so that's 2.5 grams. So 1 gram plus 1.5 grams. It looks like we consumed 2.5 grams of saturated fat. So let's look at compare the two. Well, it looks like I can't tell. This looks like it's 20, and that looks like it's 25. So if we were on a 2,000 calorie diet, that would be 2.5 grams out of 20 that was allowed. And if we're on a 2,500 calorie diet, it would be 2.5 grams out of 25. You're allowed a little bit more because you have more calories. So this is for the 2,000 calorie diet. That would be 12.5%. This is for the 2,000 calorie diet. And their problem wanted to know the 2,500. So 2.5 divided by 25 times 100, that's only 10%. Since you're allowed more calories, you're allowed more calories in these different kinds of fats. So this is equal to 10%. Now look, it's good to understand this. So these percentages are based on, see, these are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So 5% and 7% would be 12%. And that's why this 12.5%, that's why this is where they get that number from. This is based on the 2,500 calorie diet. But the percentages on labels aren't based on that. They're based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So you have to be a little bit careful when you read these labels. Okay? All right, but that should be enough for 7-1. We're going to have a little bit more to 7-1 on Wednesday, but this is enough for now. Okay? So we'll do a little bit more of 7-1 on Wednesday, a lot with no calculator work. And then we have like 3 sections to go, so we don't have much left. All right, guys, I hope everyone's well, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.